The Lives of the Saints by Father Alban Butler. March 2nd, Saint Simplicius, Pope. He was the ornament of the Roman clergy under Saints Leo and Hilarius, and succeeded the latter in the pontificate in 497. He was raised by God to comfort and support his church amidst the greatest storms. All the provinces of the Western Empire out of Italy were fallen into the hands of barbarians, infected for the greatest part with idolatry or Arianism. The 10 last emperors, during 20 years, were rather shadows of power than sovereigns, and in the 8th year of the pontificate of Simplicius, Rome itself fell a prey to foreigners. Salvian, a learned priest of Marseille in 440, wrote an elegant book on divine providence, in which he shows that these calamities were a just chastisement of the sins of the Christians, saying that if the Goths were perfidious and the Saxons cruel, they were however both remarkable for their chastity, as the Franks were for humanity, though addicted to lying, and that though these barbarians were impious, they had not so perfect a knowledge of sin, nor, consequently, were so criminal as those whom God chastised by them. The disorders of the Roman state paved the way for this revolution. Excessive taxes were levied in the most arbitrary ways. The governors oppressed the people at discretion, and many were obliged to take shelter among the barbarians, for the Regaudev Franks, Huns, Vandals, and Goths raised no taxes upon their subjects, on which account nations once conquered by them were afraid of falling again under the Roman yoke, preferring what was called slavery to the empty name of liberty. Italy, by oppressions and the ravages of barbarians, was left almost a desert without inhabitants, and the imperial armies consisted chiefly of barbarians, hired under the name of auxiliaries, as the Suevi, Alans, Heruli, Goths, and others. These soon saw their masters were in their power. The Herold demanded 1/3 of the lands of Italy, and, upon refusal, chose for their leader Odoacer, one of the lowest extraction, but a tall, resolute, and intrepid man, then an officer in the guards, and an Arian heretic who was proclaimed king at Rome in 476. He put to death Orestes, who was regent of the empire for his son Augustulus, whom the Senate had advanced to the imperial throne. The young prince had only reigned 8 months, and his great beauty is the only thing mentioned of him. Odoacer spared his life, and appointed him a salary of 6,000 pounds of gold, and permitted him to live at full liberty near Naples. Pope Simplicius was wholly taken up in comforting and relieving the afflicted, and in sowing the seeds of the Catholic faith among the barbarians. The East gave his zeal no less employment and concern. Zeno, son and successor to Leo the Thracian, favored the Eutychians. Basiliscus, his admiral, who, on expelling him, usurped the imperial throne in 476 and held it 2 years, was a most furious stickler for that heresy. Zeno was no Catholic, though not a stanch Eutychian, and having recovered the empire, published, in 482, his famous Decree of Union, called the Henotikon, which explained the faith ambiguously, neither admiring nor condemning the Council of Chalcedon. Peter Canaphus, that is the dyer, a violent Eutychian, was made by the heretics Patriarch of Antioch, and Peter Mongus, one of the most profligate of men, that of Alexandria. This latter published the Henotikon, but expressly refused to anathematize the Council of Chalcedon, on which account the rigid Eutychians separated themselves from his communion and were called Akphali, or without a head. Acacius, the Patriarch of Constantinople, received the sentence of Saint Simplicius against Canaphus, but supported Mongus against him and the Catholic Church, promoted the Henotikon, and was a notorious changeling, double dealer, and artful hypocrite who often made religion serve his own private ends. Saint Simplicius at length discovered his artifices and redoubled his zeal to maintain the holy faith which he saw betrayed on every side, while the patriarchal sees of Alexandria and Antioch were occupied by furious wolves, and there was not one Catholic king in the whole world. The emperor measured everything by his passions and human views. Saint Simplicius, having sat 15 years, 11 months, and 6 days, went to receive the reward of his labors in 483. He was buried in St. Peter's on the 2nd of March.